America Meditating Blog Talk Radio Show. We collect wisdom, hear stories, and inspire each other. I'm Sister Jenna. Tune in live from Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Do you like to meditate? Have you tried to meditate? Have you struggled with meditation? Why don't you visit one of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center? Visit brahmakumaris.org.
Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
Hi, neighbor.
Mr. Rogers passed along friendship, hoping we would too. Friendship. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
I'm Ivy Hilton, and you are listening to America Meditating Radio Show.
America Meditating Radio Show. Tuning to love as we grow.
Little
Hello and welcome to America Meditating Radio Show. I'm your host, Sister Jenna. We're broadcasting from the beautiful Meditation Museum. Stay tuned, of course, because we are about to do our grand opening of Meditation Museum 2 on October 14th at 6 p.m. Formal attire is requested. And, as we're expanding our story, I'm really feeling extremely introspective as we continue to percolate the experience of the visit of Pope Francis and the red moon, or what they call bloody moon, which I didn't really like that title, but the coloring of the moon. And we are also about to approach an interesting conversation on the planet by Owen's network, the Belief series. And so I think there's something going on, and we're being called from inside to fix, to elevate, to align, to balance, to fill up, to realize, to be. And I'm sure I'm not alone on the journey with so many of our friends. And even if we just look at the choices that we make, the actions that we perform, on many occasions, if we really deeply look at these actions, they are saying that we would like to go back to love, go back to peace, and go back to purity. Stay tuned. We're going to have Dr. Todd-B-Kashdan, who's a professor of psychology and senior scientist at the Center of the Advancement of Well-Being at George Mason University. And before we get Dr. Kashdan on, I would like us to go into our beautiful meditation. But also, before I do that, the Belief series is coming up, my friends, October 18th to 24. Please join us at the Meditation Museum and join the watch party and the conversation as we go into learning more about ourselves and who we are. It's a bold and groundbreaking undertaking by a network, my friends, and so we are doing our best to at least ensue the conversation. We're not looking at anything else other than to invite us into a place of dialogue, and not dialogue to leave the room feeling that we were right or wrong, but a dialogue to leave the room feeling that I feel like I'm a better person. And as you know, the Meditation Museum has a beautiful exhibit of the various faiths throughout time, or at least the various traditional faiths throughout time. And of course, I feel it's just so timely how it's all tied in very perfectly. So right before we go into our meditation, I'd like to invite Sister Gita on the air to read a beautiful poem for us so that we can go deeper into our process. Sister Gita?
Good day to all of you beautiful souls. My class this morning, the thoughts are coming to my mind. Decorate yourself with all virtues. You will never cause sorrow for anyone, nor will you give sorrow or take sorrow. I'm selecting from the book, The Gift of Peace, and these are thoughts for a peaceful world. When you do not upset yourself thinking about how others must change, and instead you concentrate on your own change, good things start to happen. First, you will feel better. You will feel better about yourself. Secondly, you will start to have positive feelings towards others and start to understand them. Thirdly, others start having a more positive attitude towards you. There are many, many hidden benefits in personal change. So, the motto, let me change. Change, you change into me first. When it comes to change, let me be first. What a beautiful saying. It was specially made for me. Thank you. Have a day full of peace. Thank you. Om Shanti.
My confidence comes from knowing there is a force, a power greater than myself that I'm a part of and is also a part of me.
We're all interconnected. We're all in this together.
You start questioning things. Why is it like this? Is God the person with the old white beard?
I just fell really hard. I don't want to be carrying that anymore.
To ask these questions is really the privilege of being human.
Hope is the simple belief that things can change.
I don't know why, I just know I have to be there. I just have to be there.
I believe in the things that I see and touch and hear.
The way I look at it, God brought me into this world for a purpose, the same as God brought every human being into this world for a purpose.
It's up to you to believe.
Om Shanti. The time that we choose to be aware doesn't necessarily require me to just sit and meditate. But even while I walk and move around, I can be in a meditative awareness, which is awareness of the soul, the original, eternal, imperishable being of light. For a little while, I'd like to invite you to be present, to be here, and to be now. Allow your mind to settle in the moment, to relax. This meditation is about awareness. It's about becoming aware of your original and eternal self. It's about connecting to your truth. Let go of your name. And observe yourself feeling nameless. Let go of your gender, to discontinue thinking you're a man or a woman. Let it go and observe how you would feel walking around without a gender. Let go of the role that you play and let go of the titles that you own. Observe how you're feeling as you are gradually letting go. Let go of your religion and put it aside just for now. And let go of your nationality and even the language that you're accustomed to. Imagine you have no name, gender, role, title, religion, nationality, or even a language. Ask yourself, How do you feel at this moment? And in this feeling, who would think of you, and who would you think of? The Supreme Soul would think of you, and you, the liberated soul, would think of the Supreme. In this state of absolute freedom, I am truly who I am. A free, peaceful, pure, immortal, and eternal soul. Allow yourself to just be absorbed in this awareness. At this time. Wow, wasn't that complete, everyone? From enjoying Sister Gita's poetry to getting more information on Oprah Winfrey's upcoming television show, Belief, October 18th to 24th, to our beautiful friend, Kristen Hoffman, on that wonderful track, Love and Gratitude. You're listening to America Meditating Radio Show, and we are so thrilled to be welcoming Dr. Todd-B-Kashdan, who's a professor of psychology and senior scientist at the Center for the Advancement of Well-Being at George Mason University and the world-recognized authority on the science of well-being, relationships, anxiety, and much more. Todd's research has been featured in several media outlets, including the New York Times and Washington Post, and he blogs as well for the Huffington Post and Psychology Today. Todd regularly leads keynotes and workshops for business executives, coaches, health professionals, and much more. His newest book, which he co-authored, is entitled The Upside of Your Dark Side, Why Being Your Whole Self, Not Just Your Good Self, Drives Success and Fulfillment. And today we are thrilled to welcome Todd to the America Meditating Radio Show. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you for putting me in the most relaxed mood ever in the history of 9:24 a.m.
I bet. I'm just glad you didn't fall asleep.
I'm as relaxed as possible. This is just going to be nothing but a big hug, a virtual hug.
Oh, aren't you so sweet? Well, I know that, you've been doing a lot of good in your life, and I think one of the most important celebrations of the AM show is to highlight that goodness that we do in our lives, because we sometimes answer our own callings if we're really listening. And you have been an authority on the science of well-being. You've even published many books and written countless articles. What's been inspiring Dr. Kashdan to go into the interest of psychology and to particularly study well-being?
Well, there's two parts to that. One is personal, which is like most of your listeners and every other person on the planet. I've suffered. I've gone through stressors. I've gone through great joys, and trying to understand and deconstruct what worked well and what didn't. There's part of me just brought me into what are the qualities that are best to cultivate for people to live the lives that they want to live and bring their potential to fruition. That's the personal side. On the less personal side is there's a big gaping hole between what we know about suffering, depression, anxiety problems, eating disorders, suicide, post-traumatic stress disorder, and then what we really know about love, creativity, meaning and purpose in life that can go beyond the artists of the past, few centuries, and to think of what can we learn beyond common knowledge and beyond common sense to figure out what best works when put to the scientific test.
Mm-hmm. So what is it that, puts us into our state of depression or, thoughts of suicide? In my spiritual languaging, it's that the soul is carrying a story of many lifetimes, and it all gets conjecture, in certain lifetimes, and it's hard to kind of pull out the knots that we're going through. So the energy just comes out in the form of either depression, rage, anger, peculiar behaviors that we might deem, in psychology. And generally a psychiatrist always looks at what's wrong with the patient. But in spirituality, we're looking at what's powerful in the soul to see how we can lead the soul away from that energy that's feeding on them. So when you're looking at the scientific form of well-being, what is it that Dr. Kashdan actually reviews, and what is it that he shares with individuals to make them clearer?
Well, I think there's a great complement from what you described than what we're doing in psychology now. And I'm not going to speak for all of psychology. There's definitely no single path to depression and emotional suffering. There's multiple roads of getting there. I think the big story is, how do you capture people's strengths? And people's strengths are not just what they're using now, but also unrealized potential that's within them. How do you assess that? How do you understand that? And then how do you bring that to fruition? And then in terms of, why would you want to focus on people's strengths, which I think it's important to take a step back and really think about these questions that seem obvious but aren't. is that there's an assumption that if we deal with our weaknesses, if you're horrible at mathematics and if you're horrible at one-on-one dating in big parties, that we should focus on improving your skills in those areas because that's the greatest room for change. Whereas a strength-based approach, which sounds very similar to what you're describing, is that perhaps the greatest place for growth is where you're most passionate, there's the most vitality, and you're the most intrigued such that learning becomes easier, your attention is more riveted. You saunter more through life by trying to do the things that you love doing. And through there, even though it's not weaknesses, by finding new places to use them and finding places to use them more frequently, that might be this greatest place to growth. And there's a growing body of research to show that that's exactly true. And if that is true, the way that we hire people, the way that we do our work, and the way that we deal with conflict in our romantic relationships and our friendships, and as a parent with our children, is pretty much the opposite of what we're learning, which is if your child comes home with, 3 C's, 1 A, and 1 B, what do you focus on? What do you honestly focus on the last time they came to you with this grade report? What did your parents focus on when you came back home with this grade report? And most likely, if you live in the United States, that the focus would be on the C's and not the A. And this would suggest that maybe we have it backwards.
Interesting. Well, let's expand on that because we'd like to congratulate you on your new book, and that must be an exciting time for you. The title of the book is The Upside of Your Dark Side, and that's a very profound title. We want to know more about that because a lot of us, we forget that sometimes the challenge or the dark period that we're going through is actually a breakthrough, to bring that light at a much more amplified level of existence. But I know we tend to focus so much on that dark side. So what is the upside of our dark side, Dr. Kashdan?
Well, thank you for the kind words. My co-author and I are quite excited because it is like having a child when you spend 2 years working on a book. It's a little bit different. We're not talking necessarily about stress and the slings and arrows that life offers all of us, whether we want them or not. But there is something to be said where we speak of we do have this culture right now of focusing on trying to be happy, about trying to be satisfied and optimistic and feeling good and not feeling bad. And I would say that's one of the most toxic ideas that psychology has offered the world. And because if you want to figure out what your potential is, and if you want to work on building meaningful, intimate relationships, and if you want to build accomplishments that will land the test of time in terms of being your legacy, you can't just focus on the big here, the right now. You can't just focus on that time set where I'm going to choose what feels right and feels pleasurable and avoid what's feeling bad, because most of the things that are most profound to us in terms of knowing that we can be effortlessly ourselves around other people, or for myself, I've got 3 daughters that I'm raising, and I'm trying to maintain a marriage on top of that, which anyone can tell you is no easy task. If you focus on the ups and downs of a single day or a single week or a single month, and you start using that as a barometer of whether you're a good parent or whether you're a good lover or a friend, well, you're really going to miss that if you span out to years, if you span out to, a decade, that all those small things that you obsessed about of saying the right thing or doing the right thing in the end, if you have good intentions and focus less on the expectation of how someone's supposed to treat you or the expectation that your kids are supposed to listen to you, you recognize that it's a very different mindset in terms of what's useful for your life. And you realize that anger has a purpose because it's an emotion we experience that's a darker side of our emotions, where that we feel there's a sense of injustice. We've been treated unfairly. And that's an emotion that you don't want to disarm. You want to recognize as part of your toolkit to use sparingly in the appropriate situations. If Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi and all your exemplars did not use this emotion, they wouldn't have accomplished what they did. And the same goes for envy or anxiety or even things that are a little bit even less socially appropriate, like narcissism and selfishness, where there's a time and place and the right dose and the right situation for parts of our personality that are a little bit darker than the happy-go-lucky sides of our personality.
Makes sense. And yes, it is a challenge to deal in any relationship, especially the relationship with the self. And that's where I think we really wish to turn our attention to, so that we can find some sense of personal empowerment, to move forward. Because we love these people that are around us. We're just challenged by our own inner stresses that we're going through, and I think many of us just really wish to bring the best of ourselves, especially in a marriage, when you made vows and you promised, for richer, for poorer, for better or for worse, and you go through years where perhaps you just stopped talking about the things that were really important, and the distractions and the children and the career and everything just took so much dominance or importance in the marriage that you lose sight of the beauty that was in the person that you love so much, and looking at that can be a challenge, but also looking at the light and the beauty that actually brought everyone together is so important. I know that happiness experts have long told us to tune out of these negative emotions. And they're telling us to focus instead on mindfulness, positivity, and optimism. But why is it that you don't necessarily agree? I want you to go a little bit more, because you're saying that it's sort of important to accept that the anger has a place, and I get that. So in accepting that the anger has a place, where do we go from there after that? What emotions have you found that are really useful for our betterment? Does that make sense?
No, everything you're saying, there's just a ton of information. First, let me just jump back to the great point you made about relationships, which is, as a clinical psychologist who spent years working with couples, one of the things I always worry about are people who tell me that, we never fight. And my response is almost always the same, which is, damn, that's too bad, because you must discuss nothing important. Because if you are facing what John Kabat-Zinn calls, the full catastrophe of living, you should have your values clash with what you're being confronted or what serendipitously falls in your way on a daily basis. And if you're not fighting, it doesn't mean that you're healthy. It means that you might not be discussing something. It's about fighting well, discussing the things that are distressing to you. And so that's an important piece. In terms of the emotions that are valuable, it's hard to think of one that isn't, except for contempt and shame. Other than those two distressing emotions, if you want to talk about guilt, well, this is the emotion we feel when I run into a coworker in the hallway and I naively ask, I'm like, are you pregnant? And then the most horrific response comes back to you, which is, actually, Todd, no. And you recognize that you basically made the most socially inappropriate comment humanly possible to another woman in your lifetime.
Yeah, but you're a brother. You're a brother. It's just good. It's just what you do.
I can recall 27 years ago making that comment. Not that it was the last time, and saying this wave of guilt flows over you. I mean, just being pulled in by a riptide for 60 seconds underwater, and the guilt you feel, that distress that nobody wants, what it does is it's a feeling that I said something, I did something that I shouldn't have. Not that I'm a bad person, but I did something that I shouldn't have, and I'd like to rectify the problem. So it's a distressing emotion, but it motivates you to do good for the world. It motivates me to be more kind to women in the world, such that don't ask that question. Just be gentle, compassionate, ask open-ended questions as opposed to making the assumption of where someone is. Right? So that distressing place, short-lived, but I can remember it as if it was yesterday, is the springboard to a higher peak to be more sensitive to the needs of my fellow human beings. Right? So that's guilt. When it comes to anxiety, this is a trigger that there's a potential threat in my world, either to myself or someone that I care about. And this is an emotion we don't want to get rid of with medication or even with mindfulness or meditative practices. This is, over 1 million years to create this beautiful early warning trigger system to remind us that it's time to find a place such that you can either fight the situation, flee, or escape. And in some ways, and this is a very different way than how people talk about anxiety, you can become very flexible. You can start to be in your house, hear some horrific noises at 3 o'clock in the morning, knowing there's some young kids sleeping in your house, and all of a sudden you recognize you could take out everything in your refrigerator, including the shelves, you can hide in there. And you can recognize that there are air vents you could rip open and you could hide in there. And there are things that, flashlights and milk cans and beefaroni, Chef Boyardee cans that are weapons that you never thought of before. When we experience anxiety, we see the world in a very different light. And in the short term, it can really help us resolve some great difficulties. Now, what we're not advocating is that you want to be in this state chronically, that you want to be an anxious person, you want to be a neurotic person, and you want to be constantly having this limbic system, this reptilian brain, guide you through life. But you do want to acknowledge that guilt, anxiety, boredom, envy, these are parts of your psychological toolkit that in the moment, they can motivate you to be better, do better in the longer run.
Right. Makes sense, Dr. Kashdan. Thank you so much for your words of advice and continued openness and authenticity. I really appreciated that. Before I let you go, is there a favorite life quote that you're living by? And could you leave us with a website or information where folks can get copies of your books or updates on what you are going to be doing shortly?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm easy to find because my website is just todd-b-kashdan.com because I have a weird last name. It's easy to find me. TODDKASHDAN. All my books are on Amazon. And for a quote, which I suspect no one on your show has given before, which is one of my favorite quotes on the world, is by Friedrich Nietzsche. And he says, and you don't have to agree with this, but it's worth contemplating about today. The great epochs of our life are the occasions when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil qualities as our best qualities.
Very, very powerful. Dr. Kashdan, thank you for joining the America Meditating Radio Show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye. Wow, lots to think about. So we can just embrace our dark side, and I would also invite everyone to keep increasing the light side and love being what you are and where you are, and continue to feel that it is of benefit and it is moving you forward. Hope you've enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Todd Kashdan. If you'd like some more information, just go to todd-b-kashdan.com. You always remind me, because through your many emails, you tell me how important it is to see how you could actually love everybody the same. Well, it's an attempt. And every prophet and every saint, and we had the wonderful fortune of having Pope Francis with us on the East Coast, and everyone kept saying the same thing. He's so loving, he's so humble. So let us aspire to being humble and loving and prove that we really are children of God the Father. Remember, no one can take away your happiness unless you give them permission. So let's love each other the same. Take care, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to go home with Message Home by Bliss.
I could learn who I am, and I'm sending